They look like they might come alive at any moment. Deriving from different mythologies, these earthly artworks, made by 13 European artists, make you a little bit spooked and intrigued at the same time, which sounds like a spell on its own. At first glance, your mind is confident. It says, oh, I know, this is Greek mythology. But is it? That feeling of indecision, knowing but still seeing different details in the storyline, that is exactly what the artists are trying to accomplish here. They want you to see something familiar to you, like a myth you've read from a book or a fairy tale from your childhood. And then they twist the story. So you can approach both the original narrative and your understanding of it in a new light. Artists are creating their own tales through clay. But what that story says is left to the interpretation of the viewer. So while it's a mythology retelling, at this exhibition, everyone gets to be the narrator.
It is about legends and fables and mythologies and also stories of contemporary world. But it still urges you to look back deep into yourself and think about matters and where you stand according to these matters.
For instance, some of the 12 labors of Hercules are depicted in a chaotic way. It's quite difficult to tell a figure from the other. British artist Hugo Wilson wants you to see the flow among the labors and try to find which is which. These four-season busts are very colourful and an elaborate visual depiction of nature's constant cycle. But the artists Barzotti and Cassoni put a fifth face right in front of the seasons. Plastics are covering every inch of this one. Is that us? Is that an allegory of how humanity is polluting the otherwise peaceful and orderly nature? Or maybe it's the future of four seasons. But what makes this symbolism even more hard-hitting is what lays right next to these five busts. A heap of bones covered with ladybugs. It's as if to say, so that's how it's going to go down if we keep on with the waste mentality.
I think there's something inherently us about this exhibition and something that touches to our own humanity. And this exhibition, I'm not going to go as far as say that it's where we will find ourselves, but it is true that we will find some hints as to what really brings us together at the very core point in humanity.
On top of all the symbolism and allegorical readings, when you realize that all of this was made by clay, which is considered to be the incubator of life, everything fits into place. The theme of finding a piece of your soul within the art prevails through the act of molding the earth. Sometimes the result may look like a Danish troll, or it's a half-beast, half-human sculpture. Nur Sanat Ter, TRT World, Istanbul.
The curator of the exhibition and the general coordinator of Meşer Gallery, Karoli Aliotti, joins me now. Thank you so much for coming on our set today.
Welcome, hello.
So, my first question is, why clay? Because clay hasn't really been the most popular material in contemporary art, especially
but
for the past
it is
century.
the first material ever, in a sense, because it's maybe the first, earth is the first material that the first humans used. We start the book of the exhibition with a quote by Barnett Newman, 1947, I want to say, and it's by a book called The First Man Was an Artist. And it says basically that, it gives the idea, or it argues that the first man did an idol, so an artwork, before it made something utilitarian. So it says the first man was an artist before being utilitarian. And so clay, yes, is not the most popular. It hasn't been the most popular, but it's always been in the backdrop, and it's always been really the ultimate first object. It's what children play with. It's what anyone takes their hands to can start building.
But would I be wrong to assume that the contemporary art world sort of looked down on clay, ceramics, because it was considered a secondary art form, really, more like crafts, maybe?
looking down on, yes, maybe not, but it's true that it's been maybe overseen. And on the other hand, there's that big, like you said, crafts, the elephant in the room. It's something that's used for crafts, and so artists always think, rightfully so, that maybe at some point they will be taken for craftsmen instead of artists. And then it's, unless you see real sculptures like the ones you see in our exhibition, maybe you don't always know where to go with this material. But the truth is, it's we discovered also by making this exhibition that in the world of contemporary ceramics, which is very tied to actually a sculptural reflex, there's an endless array of possibilities. And so it's this discovery that I think is what surprises most of the visitors. On the other hand, yes, pottery is something which is maybe looked down upon in terms of what you would say a hobby, but the point is to be able to take that to the next level, and this is really what this exhibition is really.
I mean, how to navigate the line between crafts and artists. And art is still a topic in the contemporary art world, but I think it's we're sort of over it, I'd assume. So the exhibition, I've been there, very good, enjoyed it so much.
Thank you.
It has a very specific atmosphere to it, and I thought that it made me feel things instead of think about things. I don't know if you understand what I mean, because contemporary art is usually criticized for making people think, maybe overthink, but not feel enough. Would you agree on that? Do you think that was one of your intentions as a curator?
I think contemporary art is something maybe argumentative to it, which this exhibition maybe doesn't, I would say. Obviously, we're dealing with mythologies, fables, and legends, and stories, and Nordic stories, and ancient Greek stories, and Medusas, and this and that. And so there's an endless traveling to our childhoods, to stories where we all meet. There are sort of common grounds. So our first reflex in this exhibition is really to go back to this neutral area, this neutral space that we really all are bred from. We all listened to these stories and heard these legends and maybe even took lessons from them. On the other hand, I noticed, and I'm going to admit I noticed it after we put up the exhibition, that this exhibition has maybe more to say than even I thought so at the beginning. By going through the finished exhibition, I noticed that many works give us a lot to think about. For example, Bauke de Vries's big explosion, the white ceramic cloud, mushroom cloud. Well, it's something terrible which is happening there. It's the Second World War, there's dead bodies and everything, but it's beautiful to look at. So it makes me think maybe we just need to not face things to be able to move on. I mean, we know what happened, but we can't really leave that Pandora's box open, can we? We have to deal with it and move on. So this makes me think of that. Or Jørgen Sørensen, the Danish artist, on the third floor, on the upper floor. Well, it's there's atrocities, there's violence, there's rage in those dogs, but they're covered in white, and white is this sort of maybe justice, because he's done them for the Palace of Justice. But does justice really make everything go away? No, justice makes it all even, but making it all even doesn't make the pain go away, doesn't make the atrocities go away. So I think this exhibition in itself, if you take the time to go through it, it does make you really think also.
Think about the hidden meanings behind.
Exactly. Maybe it just doesn't argument it. So what I would suggest is take a tour of the exhibition, which is something that the institution allows and offers, and maybe have a visited guided tour.
Well, for people who can't do that, I definitely recommend it. Thank you so much, Karoli Oluoti, for joining us today on Shaky.
Absolutely.